Morning greetings from Scouse Farm on this absolutely beautiful day in Wavertree. So I'm in Wavertree, Liverpool, and I'm about to walk up this public footpath and get off this main road so I don't have to shout. But why I'm here is, although the railings are in the way and I'm on my tiptoes, over that way, this is just like an open field area behind the school, and down that way is Wavertree Village, and over this way is Bluecoat School, which I will be showing a video of later on this week on the channel. But why am I here today? I'm here because Wavertree, this part of Wavertree, used to have a windmill, and it stood on a path between Beverley Road and Woolton Road, and this is Woolton Road, and it was first recorded as being a mill on site in 1452, but I think the post mill that was here was built around 1475 in its final configuration, but there was one recorded here around 1452. The mill itself ceased operations in 1873, and it was used intermittently until about 1890, and it was damaged by a storm, gale force winds, in 1895, and sadly and finally it was pulled down in 1916, halfway through the First World War. So, being the site of a former windmill, there is wind always blowing down this road, so it is like a clear day, but there's still some wind up here. So I'm going to walk you up the footpath now and carry on talking about some of the history. And in 1639, King Charles I, he granted this windmill and Wavertree itself to Lord Strange, who was the son of the Earl of Derby. And the Earls of Derby, their current seat is Knowsley Hall, and you can see a little bit of history there because we're going past the mill cottage, which is an absolutely beautiful property, but it is a private residence, so I'm not going to go poking around in there. I've not spoken to the people who live there, so I don't want to go in there and walk around in the garden. But that is the old mill cottage, and it is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, so in 1639 Charles I granted it to Lord Strange, and that meant that he owned the mill and basically everything in Wavertree, so all of the commercial premises and most of the residential ones. And the mill site that you're going to go and see soon was one of 4 King's mills in the Liverpool region, and the King's mill had the power of soak, which is S-O-K-E, not S-O-A-K, it's S-O-K-E. And soak is just a legal term which gives the owner the power to seize the produce. Get on this. They can seize the produce or the cart and horses of any local farmer who refuses to bring his corn to the mill to be ground into flour. So if a farmer tries to snaffle a bit of his own corn and hide it, the power of soak gives you the right to violently remove the corn or the property of the farmer from the farm and bring it to the mill to be used, which is quite a strange law, to be honest. And during the 1700s, this mill was owned by the Lord of the Manor, Mr. Bamber Gascoigne himself. And Bamber Gascoigne, the Lord of the Manor, resided at Childwall Hall. That was the manor house. And in the 1800s, at some point in the 1800s, a Colonel James Bourne got into a legal dispute about some of his trees, so Colonel Bourne's trees, and they were deemed too tall and they were too close to the mill. So they used a law which was known as the Enclosure Act 1768, which prohibited any tall structures to be erected within 200 yards of the windmill. And the Marquis of Salisbury, who was Bamber Gascoigne's successor, he brought suit against Colonel Bourne, and to solve the issue, or resolve the issue, Colonel Bourne decided to pay to lease the mill, and so he was in charge of the mill then, and he paid a tariff to the Marquis of Salisbury, and that solved the issue, and he kept his trees because he didn't want to pull them down. So another little fun fact on that Enclosure Act was, in 1916, as I mentioned before, the mill had disappeared, and at some point in the 1920s, I can't remember the date, but I did put it in my Wavertree tour video, the cinema that was getting built was they tried to oppose the cinema being built because they used the Enclosure Act, but the windmill had already been pulled down, so it was quite a moot point really. And someone's moving around out the front there, but I'm going to go round now and show you where the windmill used to sit, which is fantastic. And this was all an area of quarried stone, so there were a lot of quarries around the mill, and these quarries were all filled with household waste and fire ashes, and then the footprint of the mill was buried and levelled, and that was when they started building these new houses. And these new houses were built in 1986, and when they were built, some of the stonework from the mill was discovered, and some pieces can still be seen in the front gardens of these houses on Beverley Road. And I have also spoken to my friend Bill, who I met in Sefton Park, and he told me about this house, which is, let's zoom in there, this is the Charles Berrington Villas, 1910. And I think apparently there's some sort of controversy because Charles Berrington, I believe, was a local councillor, some sort of politician, and he embezzled funds that were meant to be used somewhere else to build this house for himself, which was quite a naughty thing to do. But I think a lot of that, when I looked up council corruption to build his own house, a load of more recent articles popped up about some of the politicians we have now in Liverpool who've been pulled over the coals. I'm just going to let this car go past. We'll move off, and then I'll take you around to show you the windmill. But what was the windmill? Right, let's get out there. And Roy and Yvonne, who are the occupants of the mill cottage you're going to see now, or what was the windmill, have allowed me to film, so I'm not just walking into someone's garden, don't worry. But this is the mill, or it isn't now, but this was the Wavertree windmill. This was the site, and in 1986 these houses were built. During construction, you can probably see the trees going there, that the wind's picking up now, which is obviously a good thing for the windmill where it was here, but not when you're filming a YouTube video. So I want to get in the garden. But look at this. What was discovered was these are the base plates for some of their posts on the structure, and you can see the rounded brickwork there, and I'll take you around the other side. And all this sandstone was from the local quarry, and the quarry was where you see this house. See this house there? That's how close it was. And I've got some pictures here I want to show you, which Roy kindly let me look at. But we've got, there's the windmill, so that's where I'm standing now. There's the windmill, and over the back here is where I've just pointed, and that is here. It was literally just a drop off. So this quarry, all you can see the cut there, and it's just like a cliff edge all the way down, and that is where those houses are now. And you've just seen the mill cottage, which is around there where I've walked down a public footpath, but all behind that mill cottage, all of this was that quarry. So that's how close I am to what was a cliff edge. And then we have the mill herself that you can see, which is an unusual looking mill, and it was a post mill, which meant that you could spin this big part, so that you could unlock it somehow, and then if the wind decided to blow from a different direction, you can angle the sails into the wind, which was great. So it was a rotational windmill apparently. And this, I just can't believe it, I'm standing, this is where it was. And these are the foundation stones there, where the circumference of the mill was. And Roy acquired these postcards, and I think it says 1906 on there, if I'm reading it correctly. But he found this in a little trinket shop when he went looking for some history about this windmill. So this is an old postcard written like, your letter to hand, have not quite decided to take something, sorry is to have troubled you, yours truly, someone. So looks like doctor's handwriting to me, can't read most of it. But that is phenomenal history that he managed to find this with a picture of the windmill where his house now is. And there's a kid there climbing over the wall. Just noticed him, little miscreant, probably robbing the milk. And the windmill is there. So let's go and have a look at the millstone, because when they uncovered it, building these houses in 1986, they also found the last stone that was used to grind the corn into flour, and that is what you can see there. That is the old millstone. I just find it amazing that we've got still the footprint, and this is protected now. I believe it's got some sort of protection. I don't know if it's listed. I think it might be listed, but it's definitely got some sort of covenant whereby this needs to be, it needs to stay where it is. It can't be moved, so you can't cover it up and put some tarmac down over it for a bigger driveway. It's got to stay here. And this is the mill. So loads of the old flour would have been ground by this local quarried millstone, which is absolutely fantastic. And again, Roy and Yvonne have allowed me to film their house, so I just want to show you what Roy put up there. He's put up this sign, Wavertree Mill, 1475 1916, stood here. And this is yet another piece of wonderful Liverpool history on a beautiful sunny day. So I've been quite lucky with the wind there. So from the outside of Charles Berrington Villas from 1910, at the site of what was once a very important King's Mill in Liverpool, Wavertree, Scouse Farm. We'll see you all again soon.